Finally, Platano has come back to YouTube. Alright, enough with the theatrics, especially considering my voice cracked. That is due to the many kids that I work with. Mr. Platinum Man 1989 here, and this is gonna be my first official video actually talking about things besides my actual future return to YouTube. Now, what I'm gonna talk about in this video is a couple of things that have been happening lately in the wrestling business, as well as tonight's Impact thoughts. Now, I'm not gonna get too into detail about tonight's Impact, but I will cover some things that I did like. Number one, I like that Immortal started off the show basically complaining about Fortune, considering that this is was one of the biggest storylines that TNA was building for these last few weeks. And I love how when Fortune came out, they just looked so unified and great together. They all did their little, Fortune hand gang sign, whatever you want to call it. And the thing with these guys is that Kazarian is an amazing face, AJ's an amazing face, and Beer Money, even though they're great heels, they're also great faces. Now, Kazarian, even in 2007, when he was like a mid-carder and an X Division and stuff like that, as well as 2008, he was still one of the top faces in the company in that position. Now, Beer Money, these guys have been phenomenal since they formed in 2008 as heel and faces. And AJ Styles, he's probably the best, period, when he is a face. Of course, unless they book him a little goofy, but as a face, AJ is just amazing. And you kind of got a preview of that with the response that he got last week when he did the Styles Clash on Jeff Hardy. People want to see AJ face. During this whole Hogan Bischoff regime, AJ has pretty much been heel except for those first 2 weeks. Now, I really enjoyed that. I also like how when Rude stepped up to Jeff Jarrett, Taz actually acknowledged it as a big step for Robert Roode. He made it seem like Robert Roode is growing as a person, as a character, as a competitor. Now, to move on, I like that Rosita in her debut scored a pinfall, but I don't know a lot too much about this knockout, so I'm just gonna wait and see and watch, just like the casual fan is probably doing. But I did find out she was 19, which is pretty amazing. She's younger than me, so I'll just keep an eye on that. But I did like it; made me be more interested. The fact that she came out victorious. Now, something else that I like that Robert Roode basically gave his spot up to Kurt. At first, I was kind of disappointed because I wanted to see Robert Roode and AJ Styles in the main event. But Robert Roode did it in a way that it puts him over as a face. It really puts him over as a face. Because the old Robert Roode from just last week, before he turned face, wouldn't do something like that, especially to Kurt Angle. Now, speaking of the main event, it was kind of surprising that the main event was this tag match and it wasn't the World Heavyweight title match between Mr. Anderson and Matt Morgan. I saw, I heard a couple of people basically complaining about that, but I guess since they knew that if they would have ended it with Robert Roode and AJ tag match, or Kurt Angle rather, since they had the World Heavyweight title match earlier in the night, they have more time to build up this last minute put together Jeff Hardy and Ken Anderson ladder match. Now, if they would have ended the show with that, they would have only had like 5 minutes to promote their pay per view's main event. So by doing this earlier, they get the match set for Against All Odds as early as possible, so they can start building it right away. And also, they did it at the top of the second hour. So when viewers, if they just finish watching their show or whatever it is, they put channel Spike TV on, they're gonna see World Heavyweight title match, and maybe it'll just keep them glued. But in the future, I hope TNA works this out so that the main event is the World Heavyweight title match. Now, Hernandez made his return, looking fit. Of course, he looked fit when he came back last year for Victory Road. What's that Victory Road? Slammiversary. I'm not 100% sure, but now he's heel and working for Immortal, and I think this is great because Immortal basically has a bunch of guys that have the look, but when it comes to the big guys like Murphy and Gunther and like those guys, um, and Rob Terry, but Hernandez probably has the most experience in a main stage than between the big guys. So, and I love Hernandez. I'm a big Hernandez mark. I just um wish that he didn't leave TNA so much. You know, every time he started to get some momentum, they shift his gimmick just a little bit, or his attire, or this or that. I just hope going forward that's more consistent. But either way, I'm happy to see him back now, and he's jumping straight into what looks like to be again a feud with Matt Morgan, except the roles are switched now, face and heel. Now, to wrap up the conversation, oh, I'm tired. I've had a long day. To wrap up the conversation, I basically think it was a decent show, decent to good show for the send off show for the pay per view. Now, this pay per view itself, some of the matches on paper could look great, like Samoa and Pope and Kurt and Jeff, Anderson and Jeff Hardy. Um, the Rob Van Dam rematch should be decent. The Devon Bubba match, not one of the matches I'm personally looking forward to. The Mickey James match should be good, but of course it all comes down to the booking. All these guys are capable. Most of them are capable of putting on a great match, but it just comes down to the booking. Now to move a little bit more forward, Impact taping on February 24th in North Carolina should be amazing. Whenever TNA does one of these super shows, they really put a lot of effort, and this is going to be a super show on the road, and this is going to be the first Impact on the road that it's not live, so they have time to edit it and tape it and basically get the feel of how it would work if they were to do this on maybe a weekly basis in the future. um, the arena, I expected it to be like a house show arena that could only hold like 2,000 people, but the arena's actually going to be huge. I believe it could hold about 10,000 people. Now, I don't expect TNA to sell for those 10,000 people. Hopefully, those people want to make a stand and basically let it be known that Impact should be on the road, and it sells out, but it's not going to sell out, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to sell out, but I do hope they sell about 6,000, which is what they'll probably sell for a pay per view, um, or at least 5,000. But it'll be interesting to see exactly how much people go and stuff like that. But that show's actually going to air on March 3rd. I'm not going to read no spoilers. Please do not post any spoilers or nothing like that. Um, it should be a great show. Now, I was surprised to see Suicide tonight. And for a couple glimpses and parts in the match, he almost looked like Daniels, but I know it's not Daniels. I believe I know who it is, but because I remember reading about it before, but when they said that, he didn't really wrestle that much. But it was interesting to see him come back and wrestle, and it was fun to see him because TNA built this character for so long, and most of 2009, he was the main focus of the X Division. For them to just drop him completely when Kaz and Daniels made their full returns. But either way, that's that. Now, to quickly talk about this whole Booker T and Kevin Nash, I don't want to overtalk it. I, for one, am very happy that they did not return to TNA. Although it would have been great to see a main event Mafia reunion or revival. That's something that now they still have open for the future. Picture 2 years from now, you hear main event Mafia's theme music. That would be pretty epic, in my opinion. Um, And of course, we got Fortune face. Now, we haven't seen Flair actually, come out and talk about it, but I just hope Flair is face. I just hope he is. I just want to hear him on the mic, you know, as face. And it should look like. It should look like there'll be a Fortune versus Immortal Lethal Lockdown match, which is funny because TNA has done this a couple times already, where they'll have two teams going off at each other, and then the next year, or the next time they go off, the roles are switched when it comes to heel and face. So it'll still be like Flair versus Hogan. Excuse me. But sort of different because now it's heel and face. But either way, that's that. Now, to quickly talk about these rumors about Sting going to WWE and the promo that they showed and stuff like that. Now, there have been reports saying that Sting has indeed signed a contract, and then there's been reports that they haven't even been talking at all. I don't personally believe half what I read on the dirt sheets. Don't believe anything you hear. Believe only half of what you actually see. But I'm gonna wait and see February 21. I'm definitely gonna be tuning in. In my opinion, the higher chances that it's The Undertaker. Now, wouldn't it be kind of epic? I mean, I personally don't know which side I'm on if I want Sting to return to return to TNA or debut in WWE. But it'll be very interesting. I still don't know how exactly I feel about it. But if you would have asked me a couple years ago, I would have been like, no, stay in TNA. But he's not even in the same condition that he was a couple years ago when he was wrestling full time for TNA. Now, basically, wouldn't it be epic if Undertaker comes out and the crowd's going crazy, it's Undertaker, blah, 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 and Undertaker's cutting a promo and this and that. And either by the end of that promo or at the end of the night, Sting comes out as well and it's both of them. That would be so epic. That would create some legendary wrestling moment, you know what I mean? As opposed to if he was to come back to TNA, it wouldn't be as, it'll be epic, don't get me wrong, but not as epic as if he was to debut in that fashion in WWE. Now, I saw something in my inbox about Awesome Khan. When I first heard that they signed her, I was happy for her and I was like clapping it up. But my fear always has been about her signing with WWE, that WWE will use some of the ideas that TNA used with her and just put them on a larger stage and get most of the credit when they're basically ripping off the way TNA booked her. But with saying that, I would actually hope that they did that, because if they have her debut in the same fashion that they have most females debut, like she's some crazed fan who then becomes an enforcer and then turns on her or whatever, that would just go down the same kind of predictable stuff that we've seen before in the past. If I was to book it, I'll have her just come out and maybe have some kind of tournament leading up to WrestleMania about like women's number one contender or something, and have a couple jobbers thrown in there so it looks like anybody could really come in, and then have Awesome Khan and have the commentators checking whose name that is, like, oh, it says here it's whatever her name is, and just have her continue to dominate and end every match with a different powerful move, you know what I mean, building up to the actual double power bomb, and then have her get her title shot at WrestleMania. I think a lot of people will want to see that, but that's just my dreams, that's just my fantasies, doesn't mean it's gonna happen. Peace. Mr. Blatterman, 1989, out. The limit's about to reach. I didn't even notice. See you guys soon. Watch Against the Odds. Peace.